starting from April of this year, 2023, and this month of May, we can see a lot of violence in Manipur. The violence is between certain non-tribal groups called as Meitei or Meiteis and the tribal groups of Nagas and Kukis in the hill parts of the state of Manipur. Hi all of you, मैं शब्बीर from Edukemy and आज का टॉपिक है the Manipur Riots. Why ये है कि the Meiteis or the Meiteis are considered to be non-tribals. They are part of the population of the Manipur Plains, जो इम्फाल Plains हैं जहाँ पर लोकटक लेक है. They have been demanding for the status of scheduled tribes. Somewhere they fear that they're losing out on the opportunities. On the other hand, the Nagas and the Kukis, जो hill area की population है और जो कि मणिपुर के ट्राइबल पॉपुलेशन है, वो ऑलरेडी हैव द शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब स्टेटस. दे आर रेजिस्टिंग दिस मूव ऑफ द मेतीज. तो हाई कोर्ट रिसेंटली क्या किया है कि इट हैज डायरेक्टेड द सेंटर टू कंसिडर दिस रिक्वेस्ट एंड इफ पॉसिबल नोटिफाई द मेती एज ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स अंडर शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब, द शेड्यूल लिस्ट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. तो झगड़ा यहाँ शुरू हुआ है. द कुकीज एंड द नागास केम अप विद अ ट्राइबल सॉलिडारिटी मार्च and things got out of hand. Some burning arson happened. And since then, the army has been called in, the rapid action forces have been called in and so on. So, a classical example of tribal, non-tribal conflict kaha jata hai. But I believe that the narrative is too simplistic. If I simply call this as a tribal, non-tribal conflict, there is more to this. Iska roots, iska history, the demographic aspect, isme bahut kuch hai, which I am trying to discuss right now. First of all, we should appreciate the geography of Manipur. Manipur एक hill region है, part of the Himalayan extensions called as the Purvanchal Hills. It is largely mountainous, highlands and plateaus, जो Manipur mountains के नाम से भी कहलाता है. And there is a small part called as the Manipur Plains or the Manipur Valley. Manipur Valley is drained by river Barak, river Manipur, river U. And एक और river है वहाँ पर Langye के नाम से, L-A-N-Y-E, Langye River. And these four become the plains. और यहाँ पर बड़ा famous लोकटक लेक है. लोकटक लेक with its floating national park where we have certain type of material called as fundis. The fundis floats on the water and it's called as a floating national park. This is part of a larger area called as the Kaibul Lamjao Bird Sanctuary. लोकटक लेक एक डैम भी है. So briefly ये इसका geography है. And Manipur borders Myanmar on the western side. It has the borders of Assam. North में Nagaland है, south में Mizoram है. So this briefly is the location aspects of Manipur. Now about the demography aspects. लोग कौन है जो यहाँ रहते हैं? Meiteis are considered as one of the indigenous populations of Manipur. But important ये है कि they are considered as non-tribals. Somewhere around 1700s or early 18th century में they had converted to Hinduism. They are largely Vaishnavites. Otherwise, they are actually a type of tribal religion in लोगों का था called as Sanamahi religion. It was polytheism with tribal gods. But these people got converted. And now we say that the Meiteis are example of syncretic religion. कि इनका बहुत कुछ rituals and बहुत सारे beliefs Hinduism में के हैं. Along with that, they also follow some of the Sanamahi traditions and Sanamahi rituals also. They make up 52 to 53% of the Manipur's population, but they occupy a very small part of the Manipur land, just about 10%. On the other hand, जो mountainous areas हैं that make up the Himalayan mountains and plateaus, यहाँ पर Kukis and Nagas रहते हैं. Naga tribes, they are across 2 or 3 states including Nagaland. And एक बहुत dominant clan या group of Nagas हैं called as the Tangluk group. They are the more dominant ones. And the Nagas make up about 25% or 1/4 of Manipur's population. और एक group है Kuki group. A Kuki group, they also called as Kuki, Zomi, Mizo group or Kuki, Zomi and Mar. HMAR, Mar groups. Now, these population make up about 14 to 15% of Manipur's population. And they are also tribal, they are in the hill. Both Nagas and Kukis are listed under scheduled tribes. These population are about 40 odd percentage of population and they occupy 90% of Manipur's area, which is hills. Whereas the Meiteis, they account for around 50 to 53% of the population. And they occupy just 10% of Manipur's land in the valley plains. इसके अलावा यहाँ पर मेती पंगाल्स भी हैं. मेती पंगाल्स are about 8% of Manipur's population and they're largely Muslims. They come from parts of Bangladesh, parts of Assam. They have some medieval history, but they also make up a population. So this is a multi-ethnic, multi-cultural region है, जिसके वजह से कुछ हद तक यहाँ पर conflicts हैं. In fact, one of the major conflict is Meiteis and Nagas do not consider Kukis as original inhabitants of Manipur. They believe Kuki population जो है, Kuki, Zomi, Mar population, they have come from Myanmar. वहाँ के राजा जो थे, they probably started getting persecuted by the kings and they came here and the Manipur king gave them shelter. So Kukis are considered that they have moved out from Myanmar, they're occupying parts of Manipur hills and they are demanding for a separate state, the Kuki state, जिसके वजह से conflicts हैं. So एक तरफ Meiteis हैं who feel they are resource constrained, एक तरफ Nagas हैं who feel that they are not given proper development because they are relegated to the hills, और Kukis हैं who feel that they are not acknowledged as the indigenous population of the Manipur. हम लोग अब सुन रहे हैं the conflict of Meiteis versus the tribal, but right from the 1960s and 70s, Manipur has been infamous for a lot of insurgency problems. थोड़ा बहुत हाथ म्यांमार का था, इंसर्जेंसी ग्रुप्स नागा ग्रुप में भी थे, इंसर्जी ग्रुप्स कुकी ग्रुप में भी थे, and there were infamous Naga Kuki conflicts. In fact, right from 1980s up to 2004-5 तक, Manipur was declared as a disturbed area. और आपने सुना होगा the very feisty lady called as Irom Sharmila. She went on a very long, prolonged hunger strike, and Manipur was under the Armed Forces Special Act, and there are a lot of criticisms around that. In fact, there was some brutality, certain atrocious acts by the armed forces, Assam Rifles in particular. उसके बाद सरकार ने वहाँ हटा दिया था Armed Forces Special Act जो था. Starting from 2008, मणिपुर का हालत काफी सुधर गया था. The condition was much better. There was good amount of trade happening, development happening. But again, the problem has flared up. The problem has flared up particularly after 2013-14. And because there are some change that the Meiteis require, they demand, so that their development can also be ensured despite the fact they have got less resources. So this is the demography aspect, the people of Manipur. एक third aspect आपको जानना बहुत important है, a brief about the history of Manipur. Manipur originally was a princely state. It was under a king of Manipur and they have a dynasty, pretty long dynasty there. And during the 30s, the British India was separating from the British Burma. Manipur kingdom started requesting that they should be added to part of the British India, not a part of the British Burma region. So 30s onwards, this king had issues and he came under the subsidiary alliance with the British also. Finally, India का independence हुआ 1947 में. Manipur remained as an independent kingdom for some time, but then they had a choice. They either could join the Indian Dominion or the Pakistan Dominion. उस बीच में 1949 में the king of Manipur, Maharaja Buddha Chandra, he was called to Shillong and he was able to sign the instrument of accession, which some Manipuris consider it was under force, it was under duress. इसके वजह से भी there are groups in Manipur who have been trying to fight for seceding from the Union of India. वो एक secessionist movement रहा था कुछ समय तक. They wanted to separate out and carve independent country. Manipur became a part of India. Initially, it was the category C state of India. 1956 में it became a union territory. अब जब union territory बना, there were two laws which are applicable in Manipur. One was a law for the valley region. It was called as the Manipur State Constituent Act. It was for the Meitei region, the 10% the valley plain region of Manipur. और एक law था called as the Manipur State Hill Administration Regulating Act. This was for the hill region, for the tribal areas, the hill areas of Manipur. And the tribal hill areas of Manipur came under a special type of autonomous body called as the Standing Committee. So right from 56 onwards, there was an administrative division. There was a legal constitutional division also. And Manipur had a special status under 371C. The 371C of the Indian Constitution tells us that there is a special provision with respect to Manipur. that provides for constitution and functions of a committee of the Legislative Assembly of the state consisting of the members of the assembly elected from the hill areas. तो क्या हुआ that hill region के लिए एक standing committee बनी. After Manipur became a full-fledged state in 1972, the standing committee was converted into hill area committee. और इस hill area committee को primacy है कि जो भी laws बने, जो भी regulations बने मणिपुर state government के अंदर में, they automatically do not apply to the hill areas. It must be put through a consultation process. It must be put through some kind of discussions with the Hill Area Committee, also called as HAC. उसके बाद ही approve होता है for the hill regions. So 371 एक type का protection है for the hill regions to maintain the autonomy, to maintain the identity, to maintain the culture of the tribals of the Manipur hills. I am reading from an article published in the Statesman by Thongkolal Haukip. This was published in December 27, 2020. इस आर्टिकल में काफी कुछ लिखा गया है about the 371C. It says the Hill Area Committee, it intends to safeguard the interest of the people of the hill areas by preserving all scheduled matters relating to hill areas within the purview of the Hill Area Committee. Every bill of the state other than the money bill affecting wholly or partly the hill areas and containing provisions dealing with the scheduled matters should be referred to the Hill Area Committee for consideration, and the report has to be given to Assembly if there are certain disagreements or if there are certain non-compliance according to the Hill Area preferences. तो इसमें क्या है that the state का जो law है, मणिपुर से एक law है, it is not uniformly applicable. So जो division है tribal non-tribal में, ये सिर्फ cultural division नहीं है, ये कुछ हद तक constitutional basis भी है और इसका legal administrative basis भी है. So that is one of the concern why there are conflicts. Under this provision of division, the plains population, जो Metis हैं, they are not allowed to acquire property in the hills. They are not allowed to access any type of land or forest resource in the hills. Whereas ऐसा restriction complete नहीं है for the hill regions population. जो tribal population है, they can come and own property in the valleys, and that is one area where there is lot of disagreement. अब आपको अगर geography या demography और a bit of history समझ में आता है, now let me tell you what exactly is happening. जो Metis population है, who are the Hindus and they are considered as indigenous population, but they are not given the status of scheduled tribes. So they feel that their developmental prospects are constrained. ये लोग 53% of population है, 10% of the land है. Somewhere they feel that इनकी rights बननी चाहिए in the hill regions also. So over time what they have done is, the Metis slowly gradually have tried to expand their influence. और ये इन्होंने किया है 4 तरीके से किया है. Number one, of course, that they have been demanding for the status of scheduled tribes. अगर scheduled tribe status मिल जाता है, somewhere they can take lot of benefit of the government programs. And their argument is कि even if they're Hindus, fundamentally they are not very different from the tribal population because they are believers of Sanamahi religion also. So they say कि हम लोग more or less tribals ही हैं. ये अलग बात है कि last 200 साल में they have now taken to Hinduism. ये argument Kukis और Nagas reject करते हैं. ये कहते हैं कि excuse है so that they can take the status and they start taking benefits of the reservation. And Manipuri, by the way, is also one of the languages on the scheduled list of the constitution. तो उनको वो status मिला हुआ है, but they are trying to get the scheduled tribe का status. That's one of the ways Metis are trying to expand their influence. The second is, there is a land law which is the Manipur Land Revenue Land Reforms Act. It's also called as MLR and LR Act 1960 का है. Now this act is applicable only for the plains or the valley region of Manipur. जो Metis हैं, ये उन पे लागू होता है. ये law is not applicable for the parts of the hill regions. So 2015 onwards क्या किया गया है that this law का ambit expand करने की कोशिश की गई है. किसी तरह से भी some of the hill areas also come under this act. Plus 3 different acts were also tried to be promulgated under bills, which included a Protection of Manipur People's Bill 2015, Manipur Land Revenue and Land Reform Bill 2015 and Manipur Shops and Establishments. तो इस रिफॉर्म के जरिए क्या था ऑब्जेक्टिव that Meiteis will be able to control who are the Manipuris and the non-Manipuris. तो कुकीज को non-Manipuris का स्टेटस देकर somewhere there's an attempt, a covert attempt कि उनको राइट्स से इनकार किया जाए, and at the same time somewhere the land act should start applying to hill areas also. So they had taken some kind of a population citizen registry का process. All people who are in Manipur since 1951 से पहले they would be considered, all the rest would be considered as non-Manipuris. So this has been one of the ways the Meiteis are trying to expand the influence in the hills. There is an article on this published in IDSA by Gautam Sen. The article's name is Aftermath of the Enactments of Controversial Statutes in Manipur. He has been very critical of these three reforms. He said that ये जो reforms, amendments हैं, somewhere they are deliberately trying to compromise the rights of the tribal population. They are trying to expand and compromise the indigenous rights of the hill area region, and somewhere also try to strip the Kuki population of their Manipuri status. तो इसको आप देख सकते हैं. Apart from this, what the state government of Manipur is trying to do is they're trying to declare the hill regions of Manipur under different type of protected areas, reserved areas and wildlife sanctuaries. तो इससे क्या हो रहा है, जो फॉरेस्ट रीजन्स को एक्वायर कर रहे हैं अंडर एनवायरमेंटल कंसिडरेशंस, एंड दे आर सिस्टमैटिकली एविक्टिंग लॉट ऑफ ट्राइबल पॉपुलेशन. इसमें मोस्ट इंपैक्टेड हैव बीन द कुकी पॉपुलेशंस, where they have been removed because they had come under the areas of protected forest. Now, एक argument ये बनता है कि before you declare a hill region or a forest as a protected area or a reserved area of wildlife sanctuary, there must be concurrence of the hill area committee, because hill area committee has a kind of primacy over any laws applicable to hill areas of Manipur. लेकिन ये क्या नहीं जा रहा है, the district councils and the hill area committees have been compromised, and the state is going ahead with this kind of demarcations, which is seen as a very organized process of removing the tribes from the hill areas and the forests. In doing so, a lot of settlements have been declared as unauthorized, they have been razed, they have been burnt down, and इसमें कुछ churches का भी burning, and the churches have also been razed. So the Meitei and the tribal population का जो conflict है, ये थोड़ा communal angle भी ले रहा है, because Meiteis are Hindus and Meiteis have the majority in the state government. So anything the state government does, the hill area sees it as a smart move, a calculated move by the Meiteis to start encroaching into the hill areas. So I said three things they have done. One is expand the ambit of the Land Act to the hill areas. Second was that they started demanding for the scheduled tribe status, that they can get some benefits of the government jobs and resources. Third they have done is started declaring the hill area forests under certain conservation programs. और एक fourth काम हुआ है under the recent chief minister, the 5 important districts of hill areas, which includes the districts of Ukhrul, Senapati, Kangpokpi, Kamjong, Tengnaupal and Churachandpur. ये hill area districts हैं. यहाँ पर एक historical problem रहा है poppy cultivation for opium and lot of trans-border heroin smuggling. So the state government under the present day chief minister has gone under a crackdown against the poppy cultivation and illegal drug trade and drug smuggling. इसके वजह से भी lot of hill area population have started to lose their income. Yes, we agree that poppy cultivation is not to be accepted. That is unlawful, illegal. But जिस तरह से perception है hill areas में कि सारा कुछ targeted है ताकि hill area population, Nagas and Kuki start losing their land, start losing their jobs, they start losing the opportunities, and they see this as a very organized design for the plain regions and the Meitei population to take over control of the entire state of Manipur. The roots of the conflict, not simply the Meiteis have been asking for scheduled tribes and others are objecting. The history is far more deeper. There are demographic issues, there are issues related to the state's formation, there are constitutional demarcation, कुछ हद तक legal administration divides भी हैं, and of course inherent cultural distrust है. एक और चीज न्यूज में आया होगा that the conflict aggravated when the Metis population in some parts started destroying the Anglo-Kuki memorial monuments and Anglo-Kuki memorial gate. There's a very famous structure called as the Anglo-Kuki War Memorial at Churachandpur. इसको जला दिया गया है। अब ये जो एंग्लो-कुकी वॉर है, ये अपने आप में बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग डिबेट है और कंसर्न है। इन द ईयर्स 1917 एंड 1919, जिस टाइम में वर्ल्ड वॉर 1 चल रहा था, द इंपीरियल ब्रिटिश फोर्सेस ट्राइड टू रिक्रूट द कुकी पॉपुलेशन इनटू द ब्रिटिश आर्मी एंड द कुकीज रेजिस्टेड। The war went on for 3 years. It's called as the Anglo-Kuki War. The consequence of which, of course, was the Kuki were very brutally demonized. The uprising was suppressed, and a lot of atrocities were done. The Kukis consider this a type of a freedom struggle. They consider this as a very important time when the Kukis asserted for their homeland rights. तो ये जो memorials बन रहे हैं और कहीं कहीं पर स्टोन्स लगाया जा रहा है, कॉल्ड एज एंग्लो कुकी मेमोरियल मोनोलिथ। उस मोनोलिथ में एक सेंटेंस लिखा जाता है, इन डिफेंस ऑफ एंसेस्ट्रल लैंड एंड फ्रीडम। ये जो स्टेटमेंट है, दिस स्टेटमेंट बोथ मेतीज एंड नागास ऑब्जेक्ट। वो कहते हैं कि अगर कुकीज एस्टैब्लिश कर देंगे दैट द फाइट दे हैड अगेंस्ट ब्रिटिश वाज टू सेफगार्ड देयर होमलैंड, it amounts to saying that Manipur hills are the homeland of Kukis. So Nagas say ये एक wrong narrative है, Kukis are not the inhabitants of Manipur. ये लोग म्यांमार से आए हैं, where the Manipur king gave them some kind of sanctuary against atrocities of the Myanmar or the Burma king. And the same argument is also by the Metis. Anglo-Kuki memorial को जलाया गया, it became very big flashpoint. और उसके वजह से भी प्रेजेंट डे प्रोटेस्ट बढ़ गया है। There's lot of different type of narratives against कि ये एंग्लो कुकी वॉर क्यों हुआ था। The Nagas and the Metis से ये जो कुकी रेबेलियन था against the British, it was not so much for their own homeland. It was actually an uprising against the king who was present there. The king was महाराजा चुराचंद, उसके अगेंस्ट में अपराइजिंग थी, not against the British really. खैर इसका इंटरप्रिटेशन only historians can tell us, but ये भी एक इशू है। तो जब आप मणिपुर कन्फ्लिक्ट्स की बात कर रहे हैं और जब पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं, नो दैट देयर आर मेनी डायमेंशंस टू दिस। ये एंग्लो कुकी वॉर का डायमेंशन भी है, इसलिए बहुत जगह आपको न्यूज में दिखाई देगा। दीज मॉन्यूमेंट्स आर रिवर्ड बाय द कुकीज, but they are not so much accepted by the Nagas and the Metis. So when I am concluding, my verdict here will be that these kind of conflicts have very long history. ऐसा नहीं है कि एक इवेंट के वजह से फ्लेयर अप हो गया and they are now having violence and arson. ऐसा नहीं है. This conflict has a communal angle to it. This conflict has an element of strong distrust. The Nagas and the Kukis believe the Metis are trying to assert their majority population, and they're trying to change the constitution that gives special safeguards under Article 371C. Somewhere they see that maybe it can go the 370 way, where 370 article was removed from Jammu Kashmir, जो आपका recently हुआ था. So all of this is kind of aggravating the problem. And recently एक article छपी है of fault lines in Imphal. This article has been written by Kham Khan Swan Housing, published in Indian Express. And this article says that there is a proper mechanism how rights happen. According to Paul Brass, there is the institutional rights system, IRS. And according to this, rights are not spontaneous. Rights are largely manufactured and sustained by an institutional ecosystem. ये बड़ा interesting article है. I would suggest all of you read this article. Article Fault Lines in Imphal by Khan Swan Housing in Indian Express. This article also says that the whole conflict looks like a type of ethnic cleansing. It's a type of an inter and intra-tribal conflict. It's a conflict that includes hill region vis-a-vis the plain region, and of course there is a communal angle to Hindu versus the Christian tribal population also. So this is the complete story of Manipur. I hope you like this video. If you want many more such videos, do let us know, specify the topic, and I'll try recording it for your benefit. Thank you for listening to this. Thank you.